On our newscast tonight, on the very day that Canada raises its terror alert level from low to medium, a gunman goes on a shooting spree near Parliament Hill, killing one. North Korea may have hoped the recent release of an American detainee would soften Washington's stance, but the U.S. repeats that the regime must take steps to denuclearize before all else. Hyundai Motors' net earnings plunge in the third quarter. The nation's largest automaker pinpoints unfavorable exchange rates as the main culprit. Stay with us for these and much more.
It's 6 in the evening on Thursday, October 23rd here in Korea. Brought to you live from Seoul, I'm Laah Hyun-kyung.
And I'm Daniel Choy. Thank you for joining us. There was apparently no deal between Washington and Pyongyang in the release of one of the 3 American detainees in North Korea, Jeffrey Fowle.
That's right, and that's according to America's top diplomat. He also says Washington is ready to talk with the North, but only on one condition. Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said Wednesday that no deal was reached with North Korea in the release of Jeffrey Fowle, but that Washington was willing to resume talks if Pyongyang took steps towards denuclearization.
No, there was no quid pro quo. And we are very concerned about the remaining American citizens who are in North Korea, and we have great hopes that North Korea will see the benefit of releasing them also as soon as possible.
Speaking in Berlin, Kerry expressed hopes for restarting the nuclear talks in the coming weeks or months, adding North Korea's sincerity about denuclearization could lead to a reduced U.S. military presence in the region. The 28,000 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea have remained a constant source of anger for North Korea.
And the United States is fully prepared, if they do that, and begin that process. We are prepared to begin the process of denuclearization, of reducing the need for American force and presence in the region, because the threat itself would then be reduced.
South Korea's foreign ministry, however, ruled out any near-term plans to reduce the number of U.S. troops on the peninsula.
The decision to maintain U.S. troops is reaffirmed every year at the U.S.-South Korea Security Consultative Meeting. I believe Secretary Kerry meant that such discussions can take place if and when North Korea denuclearizes in the future.
Some North Korea watchers say Pyongyang released Fowle seeking a breakthrough with Washington. Fowle returned home to southern Ohio on Wednesday and said he was treated well during his detainment. But still, 2 Americans remain in custody, including Kenneth Bae, who has been held now for nearly 2 years. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And another breakthrough North Korea may be seeking is closer to home. That's with South Korea.
Right, they clarify their preconditions, reduce military conflicts, and stop activists from flying anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border. Our Kim Yeon-bin has the details.
North Korea has warned South Korea that military clashes in the border could lead to the cancellation of upcoming inter-Korean talks. In a statement Wednesday, the North said it was possible to hold a second round of high-level talks, but only if Seoul takes appropriate measures to ensure there are no further altercations at the inter-Korean border. The South has proposed holding the talks next Thursday, but the North has yet to respond, although it had agreed to the meeting in principle. North Korea blamed the South for a recent exchange of fire early this week and questioned the South's desire to take steps to improve inter-Korean ties. The North also demanded that Seoul stop activists from launching anti-Pyongyang leaflets this weekend. It called the leaflets drop an act of war and repeated its threat to fire on the balloons as they float across the border. The South Korean government says it does have the legal right to stop the activists if their actions could potentially harm local residents or their property. Meanwhile, South Korea has pulled down a Christmas tree tower at an inter-Korean border town, removing a symbol that's been a source of diplomatic and military tension since the early 1970s. The North has threatened to shell the tower decorated with colorful lights and tipped with a cross. The tower could be seen from as far away as the North Korean border town of Kaesong. A South Korean defense official says the tower was taken down due to safety considerations. But some experts have suggested Seoul decided to dismantle it to foster better inter-Korean ties. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And separate from the inter-Korean high-level talks, South Korea has sent another invitation to North Korea. It is inviting Pyongyang to attend a so-called 1.5-track meeting in Seoul that begins next Tuesday. The three-day forum will center on President Park Geun-hye's Northeast Asia Peace and Cooperation Initiative. Foreign Ministry spokesperson No Kwang-il says invitations had been extended to officials and experts from countries like the United States, China, Japan, and Russia, adding that the U.S. chief envoy for the six-party nuclear talks, Sidney Seiler, has confirmed that he will be here. If Pyongyang accepts the invitation to next week's forum, high-level officials from all the countries included in the long-stalled six-party nuclear talks will be present. The former chief of the UN Commission of Inquiry on North Korean Human Rights, Michael Kirby, says the Kim Jong-un regime should be brought to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. His remarks came during a face-to-face meeting with North Korean officials at the United Nations headquarters. Kim Myung-gil has this report.
Intense back and forth at the United Nations, Michael Kirby, the chief of the UN Commission in charge of investigating human rights abuses in North Korea, made his case for referring the regime to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. North Korean officials asked him directly what evidence there was that the regime was violating human rights.
That the Commission of Inquiry found crimes against humanity have been committed in North Korea based on the politics set at the highest level of a state. So my question is that, what policy exactly do you mean? And which crime are committed in my country against humanity?
Kirby responded saying the North's vast network of prison camps were run by the state and that acts of torture, enslavement, and starvation were taking place with their knowledge.
In international law, if those who have the power to stop crimes against humanity hold back and do not exercise that power to stop crimes against humanity, they may themselves personally be responsible for crimes against humanity.
North Korean defectors who were held in prison camps also testified before the UN about their experiences.
They didn't give us food if we were not able to execute the required amount of labor. Many prisoners died of malnutrition.
In February, the UN Commission of Inquiry on North Korea, headed by Kirby, released a 372-page report on human rights abuses in the North. North Korea claims it is the product of political maneuvering from hostile forces, including the U.S., that are seeking to overthrow the regime. A vote for referring North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and the regime to The Hague is expected at the UN in late November. But the likelihood of it passing is in question, as Western diplomats expect China to use its veto power. Kim Hyun-gil, Arirang News.
In Ottawa, Canada, a shooting incident near Parliament Hill has shaken the nation. A gunman killed a young soldier on guard before storming into the Parliament building, where he was shot dead by police. This is the second terrorist attack in that country in 3 days. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
The heart of Ottawa was in lockdown Wednesday after a soldier guarding a war memorial was shot dead and gunfire erupted in the Parliament building. Canadian authorities have identified the suspect in the shooting as Michael Zihab Bibo, a 32-year-old Canadian national who had converted to Islam. He was shot dead by police in a firefight at the Parliament. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility that additional shooters could be on the run. Witness accounts suggest the man who fatally shot the soldier later stormed the Parliament, but Canadian police say they couldn't confirm if it was the same person. The soldier killed has been identified as 24-year-old Corporal Nathan Cirillo. 3 others have been hospitalized but are said to be in stable condition. Eyewitnesses say they heard multiple gunshots.
Literally, I was just taking off my jacket to go into caucus. I hear this pop, 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 possibly 10 shots, don't really know. Thought it was dynamite or construction rather than anything else.
The chaos took place just before 10 a.m. local time as leaders of Canada's three major parties were holding weekly meetings of Parliament. Addressing the nation after the attack, Prime Minister Stephen Harper said Canada will not be intimidated.
In fact, this will lead us to strengthen our resolve and redouble our efforts, and those of our national security agencies, to take all necessary steps to identify and counter threats and keep Canada safe here at home.
He added those responsible would have no haven. The shootings came a matter of hours after Canada raised its terror threat level from low to medium, following an incident on Monday in which a soldier was killed in a hit-and-run attack by a Muslim convert. No motive for the shootings has been identified yet, but earlier this month, Canada announced plans to join the U.S.-led coalition against Islamic State militants in Iraq. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The U.S. has placed more travel restrictions on those flying in from Ebola-hit nations, namely Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Not only do they have to arrive through one of 5 designated airports, now monitoring will follow those passengers home for 21 days, the maximum incubation period of the virus. The measures will take effect starting Monday, initially in 6 states. In an emergency committee meeting in Geneva, the World Health Organization is discussing whether stricter travel rules were needed in West Africa's border areas. The group also updated the Ebola death toll, which showed a spike of 322 deaths over a 5-day period. Sierra Leone's government estimates it's seeing more than 20 Ebola deaths every day in its western regions.
Face a one-day entry ban. 77.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Laah Hyun-kyung and Daniel Choy.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
On Early Edition at 6.
First, it was Korea's tech giant Samsung, and now it's the nation's auto giant that is seeing disappointing earnings. Hyundai Motors' third quarter figures are out, and they dropped to the lowest level in 4 years. On the other hand, though, Korea's memory chip giant had some pleasing results. Our Shin Se-min reports.
Hyundai Motors' third quarter report card is out, and it's far from positive. Korea's leading automaker announced Thursday that its operating profits fell 18% on year to $1.5 billion, its lowest level in nearly 4 years. Net earnings dropped more than 28%. The company blames the disappointing figures on volatile foreign exchange rates as the appreciation of the Korean won against the US dollar and weakening of the Japanese yen offset strong sales in the third quarter. Labor strikes also had an effect. But the world's 5th largest automaker believes it'll close out the year on a high note with the release of a new line of automobiles and hopes for a stabilized currency. Staying on the earnings front, SK Hynix, the world's 2nd largest memory chip maker, posted record quarterly earnings in the July to September period thanks to increased demand for DRAM chips. The chip maker said Thursday that its operating profit reached nearly $1.2 billion, up over 11% from the same period last year, which sets a new company record. Increased demand for semiconductors that are used in smartphones and PCs led the way. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye carried on with her economic revitalization drive on Thursday, calling on the private sector to invest more and take on a bigger role in the government's economic innovation plan. At the groundbreaking ceremony for LG Group's new R&D park in western Seoul, President Park talked about how the weak Japanese yen and sluggish demand domestically are threatening Korea's growth potential. The president then said by developing innovative technologies and industries, Korean businesses will be able to generate opportunities out of the current economic situation. Now, touting LG Group's R&D initiative, President Park pinned hopes on creating synergy between the government, businesses, and the young, innovative workforce. The name Nokia will no longer be seen on Microsoft's new smartphones. The U.S. company has confirmed that its Lumia series of smartphones will now be named the Microsoft Lumia. This follows Microsoft buying Nokia's mobile division in April at a price of $7.2 billion. Ever since then, the firm has been phasing out of the Nokia name. Now, more than 12,000 people have been laid off from Nokia's mobile division since July.
As the number of Chinese opting to spend their vacations in Korea grows, marketing experts from Korea and China are trying to analyze their spending patterns. Our Hwang Sung-hee shares with us what topped the list according to a new survey detailing Chinese visitors' favorite Korean goods and services.
China's National Day holiday, which came to a close earlier this month, serves as an important time for Korean businesses to study the latest buying trends of Chinese consumers. And the Korea Marketing Association and China's People's Daily Online jointly conducted an online survey on more than 17,000 Chinese people that found more than 40 Korean products Chinese consumers are most interested in. 18 were non-durable goods like cosmetics, health products, and food and beverages, including Korea's globally popular instant noodles Nongsim Shinramen. Amore Pacific's cosmetic brand Seorasu is also very popular among the Chinese due to its herbal ingredients and gold decoration. 10 of the most popular items were durable goods like luxury bags, electronic devices, and cars. Chinese buyers are also reaching for Korea's best-selling rice cooker Kuku and Samsung's Galaxy smartphones. In the service sector, K-pop group EXO, award-winning drama My Love from the Star, cafes and bakeries like Cafe Bene and Paris Baguette topped the list. Lotte department store was also very popular. It saw sales spike 87% on year during the Chinese National Day holiday. The Korea Marketing Association's analysis shows Chinese consumers are very keen on gold and metallic decorated products, but do not always buy top-end brands. The research team says their survey provides domestic businesses with valuable insights into the current market trends, giving Korea and China the opportunity to grow together. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Shifting gears to a different topic now, a number of exciting conventions and exhibitions are taking place on the sidelines of the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference currently underway in Busan. One of them focuses entirely on big data, which has emerged as a vital tool for helping businesses grow. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports from the Startup Port City.
The Big Data World Convention 2014 is a chance for international businesses to share the ways they collect and utilize big data to improve operations and decision-making. Big data refers to a massive volume of both structured and unstructured data that is quite difficult to process using traditional techniques. At the event, US-based software provider Hortonworks explained the development and distribution of its open-source platform.
And what people are just realizing how to do is to take that traditional transactional data that they had before, data that they would get from a web form, data that they would get from their ERP systems or something, and marry it with data that's coming from sensors, from social media, from mobile, to try to get a better understanding of their products, their services.
Hortonworks and Korea-based tech giant SK C&C signed a memorandum of understanding in August to collaborate over big data. The deal means SK C&C will adopt the Hortonworks data platform to support its various big data analytic tools. This strategic partnership between the two companies is expected to maximize the way big data is integrated into various sectors in Korea, including telecommunications, finance, security, and manufacturing. Korea's Science and ICT Minister Choi Yang-hee also participated in the event, saying that the country's information and technology sector needs to increasingly incorporate big data and that it falls in line with the government's Creative Economy Initiative. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News, Busan.
Staying focused on the ITU, a new head of the organization has been named. Current Deputy Secretary General Zhao Houlin has been promoted to lead the ITU for the next 4 years. The 64-year-old served 2 terms as director of the Telecommunications Standardization Bureau starting in 1999. In his new role, Zhao vowed to narrow the digital divide through the organization and keep as many people connected as possible.
But if you look at the ITU's recent situation, we have found that in recent 4 years, we had some kind of difficulties when we had some kind of political debate. And they found me perhaps it's good candidate to be next Secretary General to unite all members, to work together. So with such kind of wonderful spirit of family, and also with the recognition of my work in the last 16 years.
So he will begin his term in January next year, and in 4 years' time, we will be able to find out if he's going to get re-elected, just like the current Secretary General Hamadun Toure.
Right, he feels happy like a fish in a fishbowl right now, so maybe he will continue to grow in that post. Well, maybe he is also a fan of robots, and if you are too, this next report should really grab your attention.
Right, human-like robots and wearable robots that will lend a helping hand to people in the coming days. Arirang's Connie Kim tells us where you can check this event out.
This is a 50-centimeter long robot. It might be small in size, but it can easily climb up this ladder. Going up the size range a bit, and this larger robot can be used in disaster relief. It can walk over very rough terrains and even over nails.
The final task is for this robot to drive an automobile into a dangerous place and pass the obstacles placed in front of it.
And don't just think of these robots as cold, hard machines. These humanoid robots are even able to make facial expressions. With a bright smile on its face, it looks as if this robot is communicating. Another concept on display at this exhibition is wearable robots. This robot helps patients with paraplegia walk on their own 2 feet by strengthening leg muscles.
By moving the healthy leg, it stimulates the injured leg and helps rehabilitation.
Wearable robots can even be used by the military. This robot, for example, takes the vast majority of this 90-kilogram weight off the soldier's back, meaning they can be more agile even when carrying heavy backpacks. These are just a handful of the vast array of robots on display at Robot World 2014, taking place just northwest of Seoul. Around 150 companies in the field are here to show off their high-tech robots to prospective buyers, as robots look set to take a bigger role in all of our lives in the years to come. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, in terms of weather, it was a warm afternoon, but the mercury plunges suddenly.
Yes, that's right. Let's now turn to our Michelle Park for the latest on the weather. Hello there, Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Our nights are getting chillier by the day, and today is Hangang here in Korea, which is the last solar term of autumn according to the traditional East Asian calendar. The day signifies the frost is now going to start appearing in the mornings due to the large temperature drops overnight while we still have the warm highs. Now looking ahead, it's going to be cloudy for our weekend, but a good amount of sunshine is expected with warm highs as well. So might as well just go outdoors to see the colored autumn leaves over the weekend and to the mountainous regions of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-namdo provinces where it's at its peak point. Now to our readings for tomorrow. So we'll start off the Friday morning at 10 degrees before reaching up to 21 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will both reach up to 22 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island peaks to 21, while Dokdo drops to 20, while Mount Kumgang hits 21 as well. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And that's all we have for you at this hour. Thank you for staying with us. If you're tuning in from different time zones, have a wonderful day. This has been Daniel Choy.
And I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. To our viewers in Korea, have a great rest of the evening. Daniel and I will be back tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.